Welcome. My name is Darren Storsley.
And I'm Rebecca Wyman.
On our first episode of Out on TV, we explore the evolution of drag in Vancouver.
We learn about Van City's gay and lesbian marketing strategy and visit 2 gay bed and breakfasts in Tofino.
But before we do, we have a few messages from our sponsors.
True partnerships. They're based on trust, on care, on shared values and mutual respect. At Van City, we value all partnerships, and we welcome you to begin one with us for all your financial needs. Visit us at vancitypride.com. Van City, it's right here.
Your hair is a walking statement of who you are, so let the lounge experts help you reach your full potential. From the moment you enter to the minute you leave, the lounge experience will be fun and relaxing. This multi-award-winning team will pamper and prepare you for all occasions. All of your product needs and questions for hair and aesthetics can be answered by our knowledgeable team. Check out the lounge website, www.loungehairstudio.com, for more information on this award-winning team.
For over 20 years, Inform Interiors has presented the finest in contemporary European furnishings. From the freshest Italian designs to mid-century modern to Art Deco classics, Inform can build your vision of style for home or business. Unique glassware from Finland, Danish stainless steel, or Italian pendant lamps make bold statements about your discerning taste. Our philosophy embraces simplicity and integrity to bring you an unforgettable shopping experience. Inform Interiors, 97 Water Street, in the heart of Gastown.
Word Printing is an award-winning full-color offset printer with state-of-the-art digital imaging. From simple stationery to the most complex projects, our highly skilled craftspeople utilize some of the best equipment in the industry to produce dazzling color brochures, elegant stationery, newsletters, and much, much more. If you're looking for exceptional printing, Word Printing will set you apart from the crowd. Call 604-683-0858 or visit our website www.warddigital.com.
Hi, and welcome back. Rebecca, oh man, it's here, our first show. Are you anywhere near as excited as I am?
Oh, absolutely, Darren. This is truly a groundbreaking show, and we're very happy that you have joined us. This show really does have something for everyone.
This is BC's first independently produced half-hour gay and lesbian theme magazine news show, and we are here to cater well beyond the gay community. During the weeks to come, we will introduce you to many exciting aspects about our community through segments such as arts and entertainment, fashion, health, sports, issues, and much, much more.
Wherever your interests lie, we're sure that they'll be represented in many of our diverse segments during our show. Out on TV is about you, and it's about us. Send in your email or call us so that Out on TV can be a part of your community.
We welcome all our viewers. If you're gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgendered, welcome aboard. If you have little or no knowledge about this community, we invite you to watch our series, and we encourage you to open your minds to the issues presented.
We're heading over to Tofino right now, where we're going to be visiting a few of the gay and lesbian bed and breakfasts that you might be able to stay at. Chesterman Bed and Breakfast is located 5 kilometers from downtown Tofino on the west coast of Vancouver Island.
Chesterman Beach Bed and Breakfast is a great getaway from the city, either Vancouver or Victoria. Very easy to get here, and yet you're in a completely different world once you get here. Nothing about the city is Tofino. Tofino is west coast. It's rugged, it's stormy, it's completely rainforest. It's the antithesis of the city, and it's a great, very special getaway.
Chesterman is actually Tofino's oldest bed and breakfast, but people don't actually stay in your house, do they?
No. The great thing about Chesterman Beach Bed and Breakfast is that they're individual suites, and people can have complete privacy, and there's no common areas, so breakfast is served to the suite when you want it, and it's pretty nice.
Huckleberry Retreat is bordered by a forest surrounded in a garden, and it sleeps 2 to 6 people comfortably. This self-contained private suite is bright, sunny, and spacious with wood floors and high ceilings. The master bedroom has a queen-size bed with lots of closet space, and the bathroom features a clawfoot tub and a bright skylight. There's a well-equipped kitchen open to the living room with a day bed that can be transformed into 2 twin beds and a double sofa in the living room as well. The garden cottage offers a tranquil setting surrounded by forest. This charming cottage features a queen-size bed with a full kitchen, a dining area, a living room, and a romantic gas fireplace. Chesterman Bed and Breakfast is located on a 1.7-mile stretch of beach bordering the Pacific Rim National Park on the Clayoquot Sound. There's lots to do here for the outdoor enthusiast. These beautiful surroundings create a magical place to enjoy storm watching, rainforest hikes, or long walks on the beach. This is definitely where the temperate rainforest meets the shores to the open Pacific Ocean. The Red Crow Bed and Breakfast is located nearby on an inlet on a bird reserve.
The Red Crow was built about 10 years ago in the Cape Cod style, in the old style.
The Red Crow has a lovely and bright open living room, and each room is filled with antiques, fine art, and fantastic furniture. The master bedroom upstairs has a huge king-size bed, and all of the suites offer spectacular views of the bird reserve.
And then if you come out with your girlfriend, you can visit some of the offshore islands and go for a day and picnic and find oysters. And we have some eagles just up behind in the Circa as well.
Stephen took me on a walk around the grounds of the Red Crow and showed me some of the magnificent trails as well as the forest.
These are all cedars here, and they're between 400 and 500 years old each. It's the heart of the rainforest.
Wow.
Yeah.
These trees are like 400 to 500 years old. How about this hot tub? How old is this?
I just put this in September.
So not one of the original ancient?
No, it's not, no.
Okay.
But the trees actually at night I have lit up. So you can sit in the tub and just look up at the trees.
Oh, wow, yeah. Too bad.
Yeah.
The Red Crow accommodates up to 8 people in this terrific setting of the inlet right on the bird reserve. Make sure that you visit the Red Crow and Chesterman Beach Bed and Breakfast if you want to enjoy the west coast of Vancouver Island's Pacific Rim National Park. For Out on TV, I'm Carol Delinko.
There's an effort underway to try to save a tree, and this is no ordinary tree. This one is really big and really old. The cedar tree on Ike Street, just adjacent to the highway, is thought to be 7 centuries old. It is on property owned by the town of Tofino, but a Victoria developer who wants to build houses on his property next door wants the tree taken down. Some people in Tofino believe the tree should stay put.
We're not happy with the fact that it's going to be cut down. Because of a council's fear and a developer's greed, basically. And the message was that the tree being 700 years old or older is the equivalent of a cathedral.
But the developer had an arborist certify that this tree is dangerous.
It was determined that the tree was in fact hazardous. Subsequently, we hired another arborist, and he determined also that the tree, for the best interest of the public and health and safety of the community, people in the community, that the tree should be in fact removed.
If it falls on someone, they're liable for it. You know, that's not fair to them to bestow that on them. I think it's been a danger tree before the white man got here.
There was a minor confrontation between workers from a tree removal service and those trying to save the tree today, but it looks as though the tree, which was already 3 centuries old when Shakespeare was a boy, is destined to come down. Now, there has been a very late development to this story. Tofino Town Council is going to meet tomorrow to consider a proposal that could save the tree. We've just learned a group of residents is proposing to take out a special insurance policy which would cover any liability the town could face if the tree was to cause damage or injury. We'll follow that story for you tomorrow.
Tree in Tofino are numbered. Despite efforts to protect the huge cedar, Town Council has voted to take it down. The big tree on Ike Street near downtown Tofino has been certified as hazardous by 2 arborists. Some people in Tofino tried to arrange liability insurance on the tree, but Lloyd's of London has refused to underwrite such a policy. Town Council was split evenly on whether to save or cut down the tree. The mayor cast the deciding vote in favor of taking it down at a cost of about $10,000. Work on removing the tree is expected to start in about a week.
The village on the west coast of Vancouver Island has been home to environmentalists for decades. So you can imagine the reaction when Tofino's council decided that a tree which took root in the Middle Ages would have to be toppled. Terry Malevsky reports.
If we can get some tall people to fill in the back there.
You know the town's crazy about trees when people turn out in driving rain to rally around one old cedar that's probably dying anyway.
1, 2, 3.
But this is Tofino, right on Clayoquot Sound, and it's the Ike Street cedar, an 800-year-old giant which the village council wants to cut down before it falls.
To say that this one here, this ancient tree that means so much to our heritage and our culture has to be cut down because it could fall on someone is hearsay. Isn't that illegal?
But it's more than hearsay. 2 arborists say the tree is rotten. They don't know if it'll fall tomorrow or in 100 years, but the council won't take the risk.
If we didn't act on the professional's advice, we've been advised that we could be in a position of gross negligence and therefore not covered. We would be personally liable.
But you don't mess with the tree lobby in Tofino. These people fought for years to turn Clayoquot Sound into a UN biosphere reserve. They fought to save the old tree, saying cut it back, shore it up, don't cut it down.
There are some that would hope that it would fall on the council, literally.
Michael Curnes is organizing the Save the Tree forces.
It's what people are coming here for, like the people go to Pisa to see their Leaning Tower. People are coming here to see our trees, and this is the last old-growth tree in downtown Tofino of that age.
Of course, it's not about just one tree. Tofino's reputation as the tree-loving capital of the world is at stake here.
It's symbolic of something much greater, of a much greater problem. And sometimes they're very powerless to do anything about the other areas, and they said, you know, this is our tree. We're not going to see this one fall.
It's unanimous.
So the council beat a retreat, sort of. It's now granted a stay of execution just until April 6th to see if there is a way to make the tree safe without killing it. So after 800 years, it's not over yet. Terry Malevsky, CBC News, Tofino, BC.
Now, it seems its days may be numbered. The local council wants to chop it down for safety reasons. But as Terry Malevsky reports, protesters are now on the scene, determined to save the cedar.
Get some tall people to fill in the back there.
You know the town's crazy about trees when people turn out in driving rain to rally around one old cedar that's probably dying anyway.
1.
So after 800 years, it's not over yet. Terry Malevsky, CBC News, Tofino, BC.
Tree may live to see another day. The oldest living thing in Tofino this afternoon, and it already seems to have made a bit of a difference. As Check TV News first reported a week ago, the Ike Street cedar seemed doomed. Dozens of Tofino residents gathered under the Ike Street cedar tree today for a community photograph. The 800-year-old cedar is the last of the big trees in Tofino. Town council voted to cut it down after 2 arborists certified it has internal rot and poses a danger to people and property. But last night, council reversed its decision, at least temporarily, and has given arborists and residents until April 6th to come up with other options.
I think the 180, it's very unusual. It doesn't happen that often, but in this case, there was an incredible amount of public support for other options, as you can see by here today.
Well, I think it's wonderful that this community of Tofino continues to show that where there is a will, there is a way, and that when people get together and act on their beliefs, it is possible to change decision makers' approach.
1, 2, 3.
Copies of today's photograph will be sold to raise money for the preservation of the Ike Street cedar. Cutting it down would cost about $10,000, and it appears few people in Tofino want that to happen.
For 8 centuries, but this tree in Tofino, BC will soon be history. Locals have rallied to save the 49-meter cedar, but a tree expert says it's rotten on the inside. Today, Tofino Council voted to chop down the tree before it falls over on its own.
Tofino Council has voted to cut down the massive cedar in town. The 800-year-old cedar is the last of the big trees in the area. Originally, Town Council had voted to cut it down after 2 arborists certified it has internal rot and poses a danger to people and property. Last month, council reversed that decision, giving arborists and residents until today to come up with other options. But today they voted to cut it down at a cost of about $10,000.
Plans to cut down an 800-year-old tree in Tofino have been put on hold last week, saying it posed too great a risk. Tofino Council voted to chop the tree down. When a crew showed up to do the job this morning, 2 people had placed themselves in front of the tree and refused to move. One of the 2 is Chris Lowther, who joins us live via telephone from Tofino. Chris, if you could explain to us what is behind today's action.
Well, I can explain it from my point of view. I woke up and was called that the tree was coming down, and I didn't want that to happen, and I just was overcome with a conviction, so I had to follow that, and I just came in and sat down, and yeah, I'm still here.
Chris, what do you think your actions will accomplish? Do you think it will make a difference?
Well, it depends what you mean by a difference. I know that my eventual arrest will not prevent the tree coming down, but I need to make this statement because I want to be taken very seriously that this whole process of the developer and the council, it's not okay with me, and we need to get something better in place for the next tree.
Now, do you think you have support of the people in the area? Do you think you're alone on this one?
No, it was pretty plain this morning that I had lots of support. No sooner had I got in there that I was surrounded by people being there with me, and the police came in and asked everyone to move, and I expected they would all move and it would just be me, and nobody moved.
Chris, how long are you willing to stay there at the tree?
Well, we're here as long as it takes. We're going to do shifts, and because we believe that the fallers haven't left town, they're just waiting us out up a different road, and they might turn around and come back. Because I want this arrest to be made. This is a statement that I have to do, and until they get an injunction, which is another thing they're waiting for, that'll probably be as long as it takes. They'll have to get their injunction.
All right, Chris Lowther, we appreciate you talking to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
An 800-year-old tree in Tofino have been put on hold once again. Last week, Tofino Council voted to chop down that tree, saying it poses a risk to the public if it remains standing. When a crew started the job this morning, it found one protester was not going to let it happen. Chris Lowther planted herself right in front of that tree, and when crews showed up, they found she was standing her ground and refusing to move.
I'm here because I feel so strongly that this is wrong. I don't want anyone to get hurt. I'm not denying that the tree could come down, but it could also come down 100 years from now, and the arborist has admitted that he doesn't know.
About 40 people showed up to support Lowther in her efforts, and one even joined in on her protest. RCMP were on hand to keep the peace. The village of Tofino has applied for an injunction, but Lowther says she will wait to be arrested if that is what it takes to get her point across.
Has managed to turn away a falling crew who were going to cut down a giant cedar tree in Tofino. Village officials ordered the 800-year-old cedar to be cut down after being told it contained rot. There was concern that a tree could fall and kill someone. As the crew prepared to bring it down,
They have put a lot into it. I mean, I'm not saying council is bad. I'm saying the development is bad and that we need a process put in place.
the crew eventually packed up and left for the day. The village of Tofino plans to go to court to seek an injunction to keep the protesters away from the tree. The trees of Tofino are alive with protesters. Well, at least one tree is. Village officials want to cut an 800-year-old cedar because they fear it will fall on someone. But overnight, the tree was occupied. Yeah! Two young men are perched about 30 meters up the giant tree. Elected officials say the tree is full of rot and they're worried about lawsuits if it falls, but some local residents aren't so sure.
The winter storms are pretty well over and the tree's been there for years, and I can't see that it's going to be falling over anytime too soon.
Lawyers for the village will be back in Supreme Court tomorrow applying for an injunction to keep protesters away from the area so the tree can be cut down.
Well, there is an environmental standoff that drags on tonight in Tofino, where protesters are still fighting to save an 800-year-old cedar tree.
A fair segment of this community is opposed to that tree coming down as part of the landscape of their heart, of their daily lives. And we want to continue all efforts to try and persuade council to keep it standing.
The tree is considered a safety hazard because of internal rot, and Tofino Council voted last week to bring it down. But tonight there are 2 protesters perched in the tree. They went up late yesterday, and they're now getting ready to spend their second night in the tree, about 30 meters up.
Hey, Ray. We're here to express our points of view and prolong the life of this beautiful creation that we have here. This is like the oldest living thing in Tofino. It's approximately 800 years old, and we're just here to we're trying to save it, definitely.
Yesterday, a Tofino woman prevented the cutters from moving in. She was back today to lend her support on the ground. The village of Tofino has applied for an injunction to get the protesters out of the tree so the cutters can take it down, but there was no confrontation at the tree today.
Yesterday, a Tofino woman prevented cutters from moving in. She was back today to lend support. The village of Tofino has applied for an injunction to get the protesters out of the tree. There was no confrontation at the tree today. Meanwhile, another protest is going on in Tofino in the exact same spot. Contractors for Interfor who were trying to load logging equipment onto a barge bound for Catface Mountain had to pass by that cedar tree protest and were stopped by those very demonstrators. A woman has planted herself in front of the contractors' equipment. Fighting for the forests, protesters lay down their laws for protecting the trees. Good evening. What began as an effort to save one 800-year-old cedar tree in Tofino has ballooned into much more. Protesters have been camped out at the town's elderly cedar for several days in hopes of keeping it from being taken down. While they've been there, logging contractors have been at the same spot attempting to load logging equipment onto a barge bound for work on Catface Mountain. So the fight to save the cedar has actually branched out. Today, 5 protesters planted themselves in front of the equipment and were arrested for their efforts.
Ma'am, you're under arrest for mischief and breach of the peace. Take her, please. Be gentle with her. I'm passing out. Gentle, ma'am.
My legs won't work. The protesters say they're trying to save something for their children, but others are just fed up with the demonstration.
These forests are something that's thousands of years old, and our children should be able to inherit them too.
Ma'am? They're just trying to load it out so you guys can live in houses and wipe your house with toilet paper.
Eventually, the equipment was allowed to pass. The protest at the cedar may last for a little while longer. The village of Tofino wants an injunction, but a hearing won't happen for about another week.
These forests are something that's thousands of years old, and our children should be able to inherit them too.
Ma'am? They're just trying to load it out so you guys can live in houses and wipe your house with toilet paper.
The protest at the tree may last a little while longer. The village of Tofino wants an injunction but won't get a hearing until next week.
Check TV News at 5. Conflicting views on the safety of Tofino's old cedar, but council still plans to bring it and the protesters down.
It is another night aloft for the tree dwellers in Tofino, and they're going to sleep tonight with good news.
They are still high up that 800-year-old cedar tree we've been telling you about. They know that as long as they are perched in its branches, the town isn't going to cut the tree down. And now a Workers' Compensation Board arborist believes that the tree can be saved. The fate of this old cedar has divided not just Tofino Town Council, but the entire community. So, what happens next for the doomed tree and for the 2 protesters who are making their home in its branches? Check TV's Mary Beth Burton continues our coverage.
We're doing super good this morning.
For the past 6 days, 2 men have been living atop an 800-year-old red cedar tree in Tofino.
A deadly combination for weather up here. And I guess our tarps weren't as set up as good as we thought they were.
But the heavy downpour will not bring down the protesters, nor will a court injunction.
Yeah, we're not coming down until we get confirmation that this tree is going to be saved. If that means we're going to be getting arrested, so be it.
Tofino Council voted to chop down the tree after an arborist declared it was unsafe. Now council's received a second opinion from a certified hazard tree assessor for the Workers' Compensation Board.
One of the arborists that looked at it recently did a preliminary look at it and said that there's a very good chance that this tree can be saved. We're looking into now hiring the arborist to do a full assessment.
The WCB assessor feels topping the crown and a little pruning is all that's needed to save the 50-meter cedar. Tofino Council says litigation and liability have their hands tied, and the tree must go, and the protesters with it.
I was expecting some guys to climb up there, I don't know who, but
No, I just had a good snicker over it and looked up there, and if it's just going to cost the taxpayers more money.
But the Tofino taxpayers we spoke with feel saving the tree could make money for everyone.
It's an important tree, it's an incredible tree, and it's become one of the tourism hotspots right now when tourists come to town. They ask literally, where's this tree? One of the local whale watching operators are actually now taking tours as part of the whale watching trip right to the base of the tree to let people know this is the tree.
Tofino's newest tourist attraction has been around for 8 centuries, but its fame may be short-lived. Council's going to BC Supreme Court on Thursday for an injunction to get the protesters down and to get on with the task of chopping the tree. Mary Beth Burton, Check TV News.
In trees is not an unusual sight in BC, especially in the Tofino area, but a campaign to save an ancient western red cedar is shaping up a little differently than other protests. For one thing, this 800-year-old tree stands pretty much in the center of town, and it's not the logging companies that want it chopped down, it's the town council. A growing number of people want the tree to stay, and this weekend they received some welcome support for their cause.
It has survived 800 years of storms, disease, forest fires, logging, and urbanization. But this western red cedar is now fighting for its life against a death sentence imposed by Tofino City Council.
I mean, me personally, I do not want to see the tree cut down, but our hands are kind of tied.
The tree became the center of controversy after condo developers bought adjacent lots, and city officials had an arborist check the health of the tree located nearby on city-owned land.
He concurred with the findings of the first arborist that it was a dangerous tree. And if we left the tree standing, knowing that on a so-called professional opinion that it was a dangerous tree, our insurance wouldn't cover it.
Protesters literally put their bodies on the line last week when crews arrived to remove the offending cedar, a move that surprised almost no one.
That's part of what makes up Tofino. I mean, the reason that we have a backdrop here, the reason that Mears Island has not been clear-cut has been because of activism of such sorts. So.
Step back, please. Don't interfere. After police made 4 arrests, some of the tree's defenders took their protest to new heights, literally moving into the tree 100 feet above the ground.
We feel the tree is in good health. It's going to be standing for another century at least. Like, I've seen trees in more rotten conditions that have probably been standing in that condition for the last 200 years. So the tree's well-being is, I find it's fairly safe.
And as public support grows, there is now word that a third arborist examined the tree and suggested it just needs topping and pruning, giving a boost to the cedar's supporters on council.
I think we should sit down as a community, and especially now that there's an arborist saying that there are options for saving the tree, we should sit down as a community, discuss what those options are, and agree as a community to do something about it.
Tofino Council is scheduled to be in BC Supreme Court Thursday seeking an injunction against the tree sitters, but they say they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, we're not coming down until we get confirmation that this tree is going to be saved. If that means we're going to be getting arrested, so be it.
When Tofino Council considered the cedar tree's future 10 days ago, the vote was split 2-2. Mayor Barbara Bryant cast the deciding vote in favor of chopping it down. She wasn't available today for comment.
Williams, that's the fellow in the middle of your screen, is on location in Port Alberni tonight, doubling as a small Alaskan town for the movie Insomnia.
Days to remain standing. Tofino Council has agreed to another 45-day reprieve for the 800-year-old cedar, which some arborists have said could pose a danger. But councillors and other arborists are now looking at alternatives, such as erecting a support structure. The problem is, who would pay for the structure? That's one of the details that'll be worked out sometime over the next few weeks.
And word that the massive Ike Street cedar has at least another 45 days to live has prompted the 2 of the tree sitters to come down. In fact, one of the conditions of the reprieve was that Brad Lindley and Dominic Bolio come down from their lofty protest perch where they've been to make their point.
It's amazing to see all those people that they were supporting us all long, and now we can't touch them and thank them for all they do for us.
It's not over yet. We still got to do lots of work, but from here on, we're going to be doing the work on the ground because it has appeared that our work up in the tree has come to its climax of progress. So.
The two protesters have been in the tree for 35 days. Well, it has weathered centuries of rain and wind and months of controversy more recently. But today, the first steps were taken in Tofino to save an 800-year-old tree. Municipal officials initially voted to cut the tree down. It was rotten. They were afraid that it may topple over onto people, possibly injuring them and damaging property in the middle of town. But that vote prompted protesters to camp out inside, high up in the tree, hoping to save it. There was a plan worked out, and today construction got underway on a support structure which it is hoped will keep that tree upright. We'll have full details from Tofino coming up for you tonight on CH News at 6. Now, old trees are the focus of a fundraising drive that is fast approaching a deadline in Qualicum Beach. The fundraisers are trying to save a 50-acre parcel of land. CH's Sophie Louie has a preview of that on tonight's Closer Look. So,
Hudson, it's a piece of land that's been owned by the Brown family for more than 50 years. A heritage forest in the middle of Qualicum Beach. It's been described as magnificent, a jewel, but it is a jewel that came very close to being tarnished. The Browns had been planning to sell the property to developers who wanted to create a residential subdivision. It looked like a go until the Preservation Society stepped in. Later on CH News at 5, we'll take a closer look at the Brown Heritage Forest and find out what the future holds for that land. Hudson, 100-year-old tree in Tofino. It's costing more and taking longer to install a supportive girdle for the tree, and critics are starting to come forward. CH's Kendall Hansen reports.
A massive girdle is being built around the ancient cedar to ensure it won't topple over. But the project is taking longer than expected, which means the project is costing more than expected. It's because there's no other project like it.
I'm not aware of any precedent for supporting a tree in this way.
The budget was set at $60,000 and the project has already surpassed that mark. The project is now in its third week when it was only scheduled to take 7 days.
We're definitely over budget. How much, I don't know specifically. It could be as much as $15,000.
Every steel piece of the girdle must be individually measured and cut. It's a time-consuming task, but the project's engineer says once it's complete, he's certain the tree won't come down.
Would a lightning strike do it?
Unlikely. Unlikely.
Plane crash?
No guarantees on plane crashes.
But while the tree will be very stable, how pleasing will the tree be to look at?
The cables, every time I walk by, the cables really bother me, and it definitely takes away from the natural scenery. You know, if you blend your eyes and look up at the tree, it's a beautiful tree, but what I focus on now are the cables.
And it just looks kind of, I don't know, it kind of looks encumbered. Maybe like a tree in bondage.
But the critics won't stop the work from going ahead. One of the young men who stopped the district from cutting the tree down remains committed.
I just think any tree of this size should be savored and shouldn't be cut down for any reasons, especially insurance policies.
Lindy lived in the tree for 35 days last year until the district decided not to cut the tree down. Wendy says it's important for taxpayers to realize that no public funds are being used. He also believes the tree will be a living legacy for years to come.
Well, project supporters are organizing an art auction to help pay for the work. 15 original paintings will be auctioned off August 11th. If you'd like to put in a bid on the art, you can go to www.tofinonaturalheritage.org.
Headline looming for a group on Vancouver Island trying to save
anchor off the coast of Tofino. The piece was salvaged in April after a crab fisherman snagged it in the net. Many believe it belongs to a legendary ship known as the Tonquin, a 94-foot fur trading vessel that sailed these waters back in 1811. The ship, filled with tons of gunpowder, is believed to have exploded and sank following a skirmish with local natives. Marine experts can't say with certainty that the anchor is from that ship, but members of the newly formed Tonquin Foundation have little doubt it's the real McCoy.
Once the concretions were removed from the anchor, upwards of 100 and more trade beads, that's little glass beads from China that were used in the fur trade, were found encrusted on the remaining fluke. Plus, the place where it was found is exactly where First Nations of this area say the incident occurred.
Have you ever wondered where old airplanes go when they're taken out of service?
It is sad to see an airplane go.
Well, Mark Miller has discovered a jet graveyard, and we'll show you where.
What undercover strategies did our 2010 Olympic bid committee use to be successful? That story's coming up next.
The one over to the left here. So it's a real guessing game about how old all of these trees are, but they're all hundreds of years old.
The Brown family has owned this 50-acre forest and the adjacent mansion for more than 50 years. The family recently sold the mansion and planned to sell the property to developers to create a 110-lot residential subdivision. That's when a group of local residents formed the Brown Property Preservation Society. Their goal is to raise $1.8 million to purchase the land and to save the ancient forest.
We're at $1.5 million, so we still need $1/3 or $315,000. The property we're still trying to purchase runs along Hemsworth here, and there are 7.5 acres in here, and we've raised enough money to purchase just over 2 acres of that. There's just over 5 acres we're still trying to raise $315,000 for.
The group has managed to purchase 44.5 acres of the property already through local donations, fundraising efforts, and a $400,000 contribution from the municipality. But time is running out. They need the money by the end of the month, or the option to purchase the land will be revoked, and the last 5 acres of the forest will likely be developed. That's something both society members and park users think would be a tragedy for future generations.
I think it's very important immediately, and even more important as time goes on and the village grows. This will be a marvelous park.
I just think it's important that we try to maintain as much of the old East Coast forest as possible, because once it's gone forever, and there's very little of it left on Vancouver Island.
Future generations will look back on this and say, thank heavens that the people in at the turn of the century had the foresight to try to save this.
The Brown Preservation Society is accepting donations by mail, care of the Walker and Wilson Law Office. The address on your screen, Suite 2, 707 Primrose Street in Qualicum Beach, and the postal code is V8K2K1. Or you can call area code 250-752-6951, and of course tax receipts are available. Now you can also donate your Quality Foods points toward the society if you'd like. The grocery store will convert those points into cash donations for the society. Hudson?
Sophie, thank you. A break, and we're back with a detailed look at your forecast. We'll check in with Ed on the song.
Emergency landing. An island man and his son spent a long night on an isolated beach to save an 800-year-old tree in Tofino. It's costing more and taking longer to install a supportive girdle for the tree, and critics are starting to come forward. CH's Kendall Hansen reports.
A massive girdle is being built around the ancient cedar to ensure it won't topple over. But the project is taking longer than expected, which means the project is costing more than expected. It's because there's no other project like it.
I'm not aware of any precedent for supporting a tree in this way.
The budget was set at $60,000, and the project has already surpassed that mark. The project is now in its 3rd week when it was only scheduled to take 7 days.
We're definitely over budget. How much, I don't know specifically. It could be as much as $15,000.
Every steel piece of the girdle must be individually measured and cut. It's a time-consuming task, but the project's engineer says once it's complete, he's certain the tree won't come down.
Would a lightning strike do it?
Unlikely. Unlikely.
Plane crash?
No guarantees on plane crashes.
But while the tree will be very stable, how pleasing will the tree be to look at?
The cables, every time I walk by, the cables really bother me, and it definitely takes away from the natural scenery. You know, if you blend your eyes and look up at the tree, it's a beautiful tree, but what I focus on now are the cables.
And it just looks kind of, I don't know, it kind of looks encumbered. Maybe like a tree in bondage.
But the critics won't stop the work from going ahead.